Welcome to Our.Love Podcast, where we share insights from top scientists and relationship experts on all things about love that are out of the box, refreshing, and new. Now sit back, grab a cold drink or hot one if you prefer, and enjoy today's episode.
Hi, everyone. This is Swati Gandhi, co-host of Our.Love Podcast, where we talk with top experts in all things relationships. Today, I have Dr. Jeremy Weitz here of Rise 25, who has done thousands of interviews. And today we flipped the script and he'll be interviewing our founder of Our.Love, Tal Zlotnitsky.
I'm excited, guys, and thank you for having me. Before I formally introduce Tal, you have this amazing background. I don't know if everyone knows you. I mean, even as a baseball player, okay? So there's so much that we're going to learn on today's episode. But before we get to it, this episode is brought to you by Our.Love Company. And basically, if you're committed to furthering and bettering your relationships and you want to build a better relationship with your spouse or partner, you need to go and download Our.Love and download the app. It's completely free. They've had scientists, relationship experts who have poured their expertise, their blood, sweat, and tears into this. Go to Our.Love. You can sign up for their newsletter about all things relationships, get access to their free app. If you have questions, you could email them at connect@ourlovecompany.com. And without further ado, we have the founder and CEO of Our.Love, Tal Zlotnitsky. And Our.Love is a unique love and relationship wellness technology company dedicated to helping couples of all financial means and backgrounds find, maintain, and nurture their best love through the combination of science and their proprietary technology. Previously, he was co-founder and CEO of iControl Data Solutions and iControl Mobile Payment. iControl Mobile Payment, which was one of the first companies to bring pay by phone to self-parking in the United States. iControl Data Solutions is a network of over 40,000 retail outlets, over 3,500 distributors and manufacturers in all 50 states, processes and remits billions of dollars on behalf of its clients each year as B2B payments provider. The most important thing, Tal, most important, father of three, Sophia's in the Navy, Elainey's a nurse, Jacob, his 18-year-old, won an award for an invention. Tal, thanks for joining me and let me participate in this.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to talk to you and excited about what we're doing.
You know, the biggest thing that I was wondering when I look at your amazing background, like you could be doing anything right now, right? You've started very successful companies, but you chose Our.Love. Why?
I don't know about do anything. If I could do anything, I would be a major league manager. I wouldn't be playing anymore since I'm almost 50, but I would still be in the game.
There's still time.
But that aside, yeah, I'm excited and thrilled to be involved in this. This is regardless of anything else I've done in my life. Some things I'm very, very proud of. This will be the most meaningful and I think most impactful thing I've ever done. So what made you transition to doing and starting this company from, you were doing the iControl Data Solutions before. Yes.
Why Our.Love?
I've always been deeply interested in love and relationships, in intimacy. Even though I wasn't that successful in it myself, I had a very a short marriage in my early 20s that yielded my two beautiful daughters. And then I got remarried, and that marriage, unfortunately, did not last, although we were married close to 20 years. What I learned from my own failures is that love is woefully there's not enough support and not enough thought that's being put into love and loving by most people. It's bizarre because when I actually ran a survey, I hired SurveyMonkey in October of 2020 to run me a survey about love and loving. And we worked hard to ask the right set of questions, and it was overwhelming. People were overwhelmingly interested in loving their partner more and better. Over 80% of Americans rated that as one of their top 3 priorities. Nearly 6 in 10 said it was their number 1 priority to love their partner more and better. The numbers were similar, slightly higher in terms of being loved more and better. And yet, what's pretty remarkable is how little structure there is around being successful at love. we are exceptionally focused as a species on the things that we care about. So as particularly in this era, nowadays, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to count calories, if you're trying to improve your scores in a test, if you're trying to conceive, you want to follow sports. I mean, there's data and there's statistics. If you're trying to save money for retirement or to buy a home, most people are extremely mindful about that. People know how much money they have in their bank account. And yet, when it comes to our most significant relationship, the one with our significant other, the one that can sustain us, the one that can bring us the most joy, we leave it up to chance. There isn't a place that we could go to that tells us how well we're doing as a couple, how well our partner is doing, and we can share with our partner how well we're doing. And to the extent that either one of us needs resource and support, there isn't a place today where we could go get that. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not pretending that I've invented the concept of relational therapy or marriage therapy. I actually want to be explicit and say that isn't actually what we are about. That's not to say that those things aren't critical. In fact, I have a ton of respect for leaders like Oren and Ronnie Frank, who started Talkspace, and people like Alex Tu and Michael Acton Smith, who started Calm. They did some wonderful things in bringing to people in their homes, in their cars, wherever they're comfortable, access to really impactful ways to be more mindful and engage with a professional. If you look at the data, it's pretty overwhelming. The CDC data set from 2019, the last available year on which the CDC has data, says that less than 10% of Americans have sought counseling of any kind, not just talking about marital counseling, any kind of counseling in the previous 1 year. Only about 19% of couples actually seek out therapy. And oftentimes it's well after problems have started. So I want to be clear. I think therapy is critical. I think that the more people engage in therapy and they do it willfully and mindfully, the better. However, I think it's unquestionable that even if we just blew the roof off of the movement to get people into therapy and double that number from 19% to 38%, that would still leave over 60% of people engaged in relationships who also want to be loved and loved more and better to their own devices. I think that's unacceptable. I think in this day and age, there are ways to bring effective capabilities to folks and package them in a way that's enjoyable for them.
Talk about how do we leverage, basically when I do my research, Tal, you're basically allowing people to leverage technology for relationships. So talk a little bit about the technology and what you're doing at Our.Love.
Sure. So actually, before I talk about technology, I think I want to talk about what led me to believe that the approach we are taking is the right approach. So I mentioned, the fact that I've been unsuccessful, and one could absolutely look at that and say, well, then who are you to offer anyone any advice? And I want to be clear that this isn't about me offering anyone any advice. I don't pretend to be an expert in relationships. What I am very good at, however, and I want to leverage that, is I am really good at recruiting talented people to come together and accomplish huge missions. If you look at the team that we've assembled at Our.Love, we've got some remarkable people on this team, people that have gone and done incredible things, accomplished incredible things in their own lives, overcome great odds. I'm one of these people. I came to this country as an undocumented immigrant, as a 12-year-old. I went to public school. I received subsidized lunch. I went to health clinics that treated people that couldn't afford to get health care. My parents eventually moved me to a private school that allowed me to attend for $1,000 a year. And I ended up being able to go to college, partially on a scholarship from the Maryland Senate. And I've lived the American dream. And I think that's great. I'm happy about what I've accomplished, but I'm also really, really proud of what the people on this team have accomplished. And it's a really diverse and brilliant team, from the chief medical director of health and wellness at Johns Hopkins, Dr. Richard Sophia, who's one of the founders of this company and a terrific guy and a longtime friend, to guys like Brian Israel, who's a brilliant meditator. He's actually a brilliant attorney, but he's also a brilliant meditator. To folks like Lei Wang, who became the first Chinese woman to ever climb Mount Everest. To a point, I was excited and thrilled that Lay agreed to join this team because, quite frankly, I think what we're doing is we're attempting to climb the Mount Everest of love. We're trying to bring love to people and make it more accessible. And we're not going to try to do that the way that others have attempted or are attempting to do it, not knocking the many outstanding companies out there that have solutions in the marketplace. Really what it boils down to is I'm a disciple of a very specific theory for how things improve. It's a theory of you have to start with small things. You have to celebrate success. You have to have something that reminds you of what you need to do. And you need to have fun. You need to have fun and you need to feel good about yourself. And so everything that we're building at Our.Love is going to be rooted in a spirit of can do. We're not going to be the place you're going to come to bitch and moan about your partner. It's a place that you should come to if you're interested in making things better. We are going to be laser focused on improving outcomes for people. And we're going to do that through a combination of games. We're going to do that through a combination of videos, including some of our own. We're going to record a short animated series that we hope becomes a hit. We're going to do these podcasts. We're going to do meditations for couples, meditations that are explicitly designed for you and your partner to do together. And our goal is to be the place that you come to. If you're, sitting on the couch or sitting on the toilet, forget Facebook, forget Instagram. Come spend some time with us. We're going to be a lot better and a lot healthier for your soul and for your relationship.
Tal, we were talking a little bit before we hit record about social media. Okay. You're laughing. So tell me your thoughts on this. Social
Sure.
media, and I know you have strong opinions on it.
I do. I think the best analogy I could give you actually comes from a personal story. So my son and I are very close, and we watch baseball together, and we watch soccer together. And he's a huge fan of Everton, the English Premier League, Everton. And Saturday mornings, typically Everton plays, and we'll sit down and we'll quote unquote watch the game. The reason I say quote unquote is that my son is more engaged with Twitter during the game and is not even recognizing the fact that he's not present with me to watch the game. In fact, he misses large chunks of the game because he's more interested in the interaction. I think that's destructive, right? In my judgment, social media can play a very effective role in our lives if it's approached a certain way. But unfortunately, we're human. We're designed to respond to stimuli. Social media, quite frankly, brings out the worst in us. Now, we have two options. We can howl at the moon about how social media is corrupting our youth. And I think that's true, by the way, and how social media is making life harder for us. And the data shows that that's true. Our relationships are less happy when we are heavy users of social media. Most couples report having at least some conflict around social media. And maybe the biggest problem with social media is you end up presenting an inauthentic version of yourself that you then try to live up to, okay? But if we just howl at the moon, we're going to lose. Our view is we're going to lean in and we're going to bring the best elements of technology and social media into Our.Love with the intent of using it for good. And we think it's possible.
And I think, Tal, anyone who's seen this social dilemma, the people behind the social media companies would agree with everything you're saying and even talk about that, exactly what you're saying. You mentioned recruiting an amazing team. You also have experts that you brought on. I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about the experts.
Sure. Well, one of the great privileges of going through any endeavor that is, more complex than 1+1 is that you reach to individuals whose entire lives have been dedicated to something that you're just becoming awake to. And I was so gratified that Dr. Sophia from Hopkins agreed to lead the search for us to build a science team to help us on this mission. And it's not as simple as it may sound, not because there was a lack of potential candidates, but because we are taking a very specific approach. We are not taking the heavy therapy approach, which, quite frankly, in our judgment, there are some very, very solid competitors that do that very well. And in time, we hope that they become a part of our marketplace. But more importantly, we want to take the approach of we're going to approach love through a combination of facts based on science, but also gamification and fun. And so the experts we've been able to recruit are individuals like James Cohn, C-O-H-N, Jim Cohn from the University of Virginia. He's a brilliant guy, funny as hell, and also one of the most renowned experts on relationship science in the world. He studied very closely with John Gottman, who's widely revered and appropriately so as the godfather of relationship health. Another of our scientists is Leanne Campbell, who's currently writing a book with Susan Johnson. Susan Johnson being the godmother of love and relationship therapy. And we also have a brilliant young researcher and licensed practitioner in Kristen Thiem, who's been incredibly impactful in giving us access to information about what works and what doesn't work, so that we can make sure that whatever we build has solid science behind it, even if the experience is more of a game than therapy. And last but most definitely not least, was one of my earliest recruits, Dr. Larry Mccullough, who is a brilliant scientist, but also a guy that spent his career bringing science and technology together. He led the Ford Leadership Institute, one of the most premier leadership institutes in the world, where technology and science are often blended. And we were incredibly fortunate that he was willing to join us as our chief science officer.
Talk about TJ versus Tal.
Yeah, so
and what that means.
I came to this country as a 12-year-old, and I actually had a bit of a run on the Israeli Sesame Street as a child, and I sang professionally, and so I came to this country with a bit of a big head, and I came to this country small of stature and with a name that a lot of people mispronounce as Tal. And that was not fun. And you can imagine how mature junior high schoolers were about that. So I had a range of nicknames, from paper towel to not so tall. But in truth, I went to TJ as a baseball player. I tried out for the University of Maryland baseball team. I ended up playing semi-pro baseball for a couple of years instead, but the coach for the University of Maryland had a difficult time saying my name. He was a wonderful man, Tom Bradley, but he just couldn't say my name. And I took mercy on him, and I said, you could just call me TJ. The J is my grandfather's name, Jacob. I actually named my own son Jacob, but that was years later. And in any event, TJ was born, and he was who I was. Professionally, I went by TJ for my entire career. And 2020 was one of these years that that punched me in the face. It punched a lot of us in the face, so I wasn't alone. But what I experienced in 2020 was a lot of turmoil. iControl, which is a company that I started and love, a company that I think does remarkably important things in the marketplace, was struggling enormously. A lot of our customers were deeply affected by COVID. Restaurants are a huge chunk of our customer base, and we were on the ropes. And on the verge of bankruptcy, even possibly. And it was a very, very trying time. I was so gratified to work with our investors, which included Goldman Sachs and others, to resolve the situation and leave iControl strong. But I also realized, between iControl and what I went through in 2020, between the fact that my own 23-year-old was going through a very significant health crisis that required surgery, and my sister-in-law, who I loved so dearly, and who was battling stage 4 cancer. And on top of that, the demise of my own marriage. There was a lot of stuff going on. And
I'm sorry, I can't imagine.
Well, I'll tell you what I did, like probably a lot of Americans who felt the need to get out of the house. I did a lot of walking and listening to podcasts, and I was depressed. I think I was clinically depressed. I didn't really seek any help on it, but I had a difficult time getting out of bed in the mornings. And stress was eating me up alive. And on these walks with my dog, I did a lot of thinking about my life, about what I've accomplished. And I realized, for all the things I've done, and I'm proud of them, for the people I've worked with, and they're all remarkable, for the investors I've had the opportunity to work with, that I'm so grateful for. I had not yet done something that I could look back to in my later years and say, you know what, that was something that impacted a lot of lives. And I felt the need to do something related to happiness and joy, And ultimately, again, possibly paradoxically, I wound up on love. I give some credit to my therapist. He's a brilliant guy, and he said something to me that really resonated with me. He said, the biggest problem you guys have had is that you didn't build a reservoir of goodwill, and so when things don't go right, you don't have that to lean back on. You don't have that bank account. And I got to thinking about that, and I realized he was right. But what was maybe even more profound for me was the realization that no one really has a bank account. You may think you have one, but the truth of the matter is, I don't think that if you took two people who are in a relationship, even a long-term relationship, and put them in a room and ask them to give you a score for the wellness of their relationship or how well their partner feels at the moment, that they would be able to do that. I don't think in this day and age, whether we like it or not, my children's generation and maybe your children's generation, you look like you're about my age. I think it's a reality that they're communicating extensively through technology, and that is not going to change. And so the question is, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? And I chose to do something about it. I chose to engage in intensive research into the space of love, into the space of love and technology. It's funny because I actually met Maria, my wife of 20 years, who we are still dear friends, and I have nothing but affection and respect for. We met on JDate, right? And at the time, it was embarrassing to meet.
That's how I met my wife.
Well, there you go. 22 years ago, we met on JDate. And I remember that we would, talk about, well, do we tell people we met on JDate, right? And nowadays, it's completely, if you don't meet on JDate or you don't meet on Match.com or on Tinder or any of those apps, you're looked at like you're a little bit crazy. And if I do my job, and if the team we've assembled does its job, 10 or 15 years down the road, if you're not managing your relationship actively, and that doesn't mean managing it in the sense of robotically. We're not trying to turn you into a robot. We're trying to give you fun, easy, engaging tools to be a better partner to your partner and to be someone that is able to accept love at a different level than perhaps you're able to experience it now. And I'll tell you something, I'll tell you a little secret. If you're happier with your love, if your relationship with your significant other is better, everything's better. You're a better parent, you're a better coworker, you're a better boss, you're a better neighbor. It's one of these amazing things when you think about love. Love is a resource. It's energy, right? Love is energy, and energy is a resource. And if love is a resource, then let's evaluate that resource and deploying that resource against other resources that we can deploy. And the beauty of love is it's ample. It's not at all finite. The more I have, the more people around me have. And just because I have a lot doesn't mean that you, Jeremy, have to have less. And the more you and me have it, the more likely it is that our community and our environment is going to be a community and an environment that's steeped in love. And I got to tell you, as I look at where we are as a nation, as I look at where we are as from a global standpoint, the amount of friction and stress that we are dealing with is unprecedented. The American Psychology Association came out with a study in January 2021 in which they we're screaming from the rooftops that there is an epidemic of stress in this country. Americans are reporting higher levels of stress than ever. Now, of course, some of that's COVID, but it's not all it is. We're also experiencing a lot of political upheaval in this country. There is a tremendous awakening in this country, which I think can be harnessed in ways that are incredibly useful and productive and helpful. And there are people that push against out of fear. Love is the answer to a lot of these things. Love is an opportunity to look at where someone's coming from with a completely different prism. And I think that if you are in a relationship where you feel loved, respected, seen, you are far more able to love, respect, and see other people, whether they're within your family or tribe or outside of it. And I think that's something we desperately need.
Oh, how do you describe to people how they should utilize Our.Love? And I want to point people towards where can people download it and get it?
So at this present point, Our.Love is in its early stages. I made the decision to start this company and launched it in March of this year. I went and recruited initially just a couple of people. And I wasn't really sure where and how this was going to grow. And the first two people I recruited were my good friend and brilliant meditation podcaster. Go check out his podcast on Spotify or on Apple. Brian Israel. And he's a dear friend. We've known each other a long time. He's married to a dear friend. We talked about my vision. I talked about my realization that when it comes to our relationship, incredibly enough, even as we use technology to help us be better at nearly everything that matters when it comes to our relationships, we are willfully doing nothing constructive when it comes to technology. Brian bought in, he was in, and the second person I went to is our president, Tanya Koppen-Fox. And, I was I quite frankly, I didn't expect that Tanya would want to be as involved. I was hoping that she would maybe be willing to join the board or be an advisor, but she loved this mission so much. And Tanya is the founder and CEO of Global Resource and Support, which is a wonderful and successful company that provides health and wellness and instruction to people with disabilities in multiple states and overseas. And Tanya was so enthusiastic that she both put in money and said, "I'd like to join you on this journey, Tal. I think this is about as important a journey as I could be on." And together we've gone out and recruited a small army of very, very talented people in all phases, from marketing to technology to business. Our board is incredible. Susan McCanty Brady, who is the Deloitte chair and the CEO of the Simmons Leadership Institute for Inclusive Leadership, is our chairwoman. We're incredibly fortunate to have her. She's a brilliant thinker, someone who's been the CEO of Relational Life Institute and worked with a famed therapist called Terry Real for many years. We've got people like Lisa Tanzer, who's the president of Katie Couric Marketplace. And we'll be announcing a couple other very prominent people. And Dr. Sophia and myself and Tanya are also on that board. But to answer your question, and sorry for going about this in reverse and talking about the team first, if you're coming on our app, if you're coming to our website, Our.Love, what I would ask that you do, if you're interested in this and you want to be someone that is part of a journey and a movement to bring love into our lives and specifically into your and your significant other's life, sign up. Right now, what we're doing is we're in the process of ramping up our efforts. We are recording podcasts. We are building our a television series. We're doing meditations. We are building games that are going to be fun and impactful. And by late September, we'll be launching version 1.0. So if you're interested in being among the pioneers that get a chance to not only experience what we're looking to do, but possibly give us some insights into what we could do to do it better, that would be wonderful. So come to Our.Love, and I'll tell you, ultimately what we expect to build is we expect to build a platform where you have, if you're thinking about love, if you're engaged in love, if you want to be in love, if you are in love, if your love is good, if your love is not so good, if your love is in trouble, you think the place where I'm going to start is Our.Love. What I'm going to get out of Our.Love is I'm going to get resources to help me organize myself, resource to help me get closer to my partner and understand my partner better, a way to track how well me and my partner are doing, a basis point to compare ourselves to others. In time, we're going to begin to share really interesting data for how people compare to others. We're always curious about our neighbors, right? We always think that the neighbor's grass is greener. Well, we're going to give you some data on your relationship. It's obviously going to be completely anonymized. We're going to be respecting your privacy tremendously. I'm real proud of the individuals we brought onto the team to help us there. Bernard Gay, a very well-respected CIO, will be making sure that we are very careful with people's data. But when Our.Love is a fully realized product, it's going to be the place you want to come to just to chill out and read and learn and see and laugh and do. You're going to play games that are going to be fun. The games are going to give you the opportunity to build a virtual world with your partner if you want to, but that virtual world is going to become real. And that's about as much as I can say without giving too much.
And couples will be doing this together.
Yes. Our.Love is rooted in a very basic and I think undeniable reality, which is that our love is expressed and communicated in ways where particularly in the context of a relationship, the mirroring that we get from our partner is a really significant part in our ability to both figure out exactly how to love them best and in being able to express to them how we need and want to be loved best. I think, the word authenticity is often tossed about. It almost feels, quaint to say be authentic, but in truth, the older I get and the more I think I experience life, the more I realize, and quite frankly, it's one of the reasons that I did go back to Tal when I started this venture, that being yourself and being able to be seen for who you are by a person that you care about and that you respect and that respects you and that is willing to see you as you are and accept you as you are, that's incredibly powerful. And that can only be accomplished when two people choose to do it together. So our goal and our hope is that we're going to create an environment that is welcoming to you, regardless of whether you're someone that is, sort of reluctant to get engaged with things like that, right? We recognize that for a lot of people, therapy is a non-starter. We're not a therapy app. We're, in time, I think we'll have some capabilities there through partnerships or other in other ways. But what we are is we're a safe place where you can come and you can experience and very quickly and through games, learn habits that you can immediately bring to your relationship and see progress. And we think that through progress, what will happen is space will be created. The most beautiful thing about progress is that when you experience it, you suddenly become hungry for more. And we, it's what the social media companies use against us in a way, right? When you are doing something and you feel successful, and what is feeling successful in the social media context? It's getting a lot of likes. The more successful you feel, the more engaged you become. We want to do the same thing, except we want to do it just with your partner. And in time, we do think that we might be able to introduce really unique ways for you to involve a small selection of people, which will be part of your community. But initially, just you and your partner.
I have one last question for you, Tal. First of all, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I mean, if anyone's listening to this, they can just feel the passion and the legacy that'll be created from this. And so I want to encourage everyone to go to Our.Love, and it's free. You literally have no excuse. Like, you get on your app, improve your relationships, go to Our.Love and check it out, download it. My last question is, when you speak of, or I talk about your kids, you light up. All right. And I would love for you, and I mentioned the top of the interview about your son, Jacob, and he won an award for an invention. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that and about what your kids are working on.
Yeah. So, I feel so fortunate to be a dad of three unbelievable human beings. My oldest, Sophia, wanted to go to the Navy before college, and we sort of encouraged her to go get a college degree, and then we'll see if you still have the fire in the belly. And she did, and she went and joined the Navy, and she's a Seabees, the construction battalion, the folks that when the Marines need a bridge built overnight, they call the Seabees, right? So Sophia is I'm so proud of her and her partner Maddie and the life they're building. Elainey, my middle daughter.
Really quickly on Sophia, yeah. Why did she want to go in the Navy? Why was she so passionate about that?
Well, I come from a family that served. Maria's father was in the Navy, and I know that was something that brought Sophia and him close, and so I think that was part of it. But my family served. I'm in Israeli military, granted, but everyone in my family, but me, quite frankly, served. And so I think it was she sort of grew up believing in service. And while I didn't serve in the military, I'm a strong believer in service. And I look at my daughter, Elainey, who, while she was going to college to become a nurse, she first became a licensed practical nurse. She's now becoming a registered nurse. She spent almost 2 years in the Baltimore City inner city public schools, as a personal nurse to disabled children in a class for children that were just learning life skills. So I think it's a little bit in the blood. But all my children are incredibly empathetic, and my son Jacob was part of a team at his high school, Bullis High School in Potomac, Maryland, that invented something called the We Stroll, which is a stroller for people in wheelchairs. It was motivated by a teacher in the school whose husband suffered a brain injury, and they had an infant, and he was wheelchair bound, and he was heartbroken about not being able to take his child for a stroll, something he had long dreamed of doing. And my son and a team of very bright kids figured out how to do it. And, they won a couple of international awards, and I'm deeply, deeply proud of him.
That's amazing.
And I got to say, if I'm going to talk about my kids, I got to give a word out to Maria. Maria is an incredible mother. She was always deeply involved in all of their activities. And they're incredibly fortunate that she was. Jacob is actually a bit of a savant violinist. He was the lead violinist of his school orchestra, and he owes that to his mom, because he would have quit. She just didn't let him quit, and now, of course, he loves it and is so grateful. So I want to give a very well-deserved shout out to Maria.
Tal, first of all, thank you for having me. Everyone, check out Our.Love and more episodes of the podcast. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Jeremy. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to Our Love Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's topic. Please be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes and give us a 5-star rating to help others find us. We'll see you again next week, and we hope that you are experiencing your best love today.